Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Monday, March 3rd edition of the Daily Pulse, kicking off a new week, kicking off a new month here of shows. And I'm excited to kick off this week, this month, this day for that matter, with my good friend Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun.
Good to be here.
For a return engagement in the 𝐿_point
I know,
studios.
too. Right.
And you actually beat me in here today, too. I had the wrong time. And,
I had time to sort of reconnoiter this, the studio, find all the hidden cameras.
You shut them all off, so our off-air
We had nothing to show.
We'll never make air.
But I got to tell you, I watched the show on Friday with Leslie Boder.
Yep.
Boder. Oh, my God, she's like touching the third rail, man.
Oh,
live wire, that one. That was a lot of fun.
As I told you, that was the most fun I had doing radio.
She really brings it. Yeah.
She does.
Normally, when I watch shows that I've already taped, I put it on 2x speed, and I couldn't because I couldn't. I had to slow it.
Yeah,
I had to slow it down because it was moving so fast. I was.
Well, that, by the way, good little tip for those who want to watch the Daily Pulse in less time. Just you can actually accelerate the speed.
Right.
And watch it.
But not with Leslie Boder.
Not with Boder.
No,
okay.
no.
With Melanie.
I try to slow the roll so I can stretch out my time so you can't come at me as often.
You learn from the politicians.
That's right. Play the long game.
Well, we're excited to have you. Lots going on in the weekend. Some breaking political news that we're going to talk about.
Every day is a party.
It sure is here in the Mill City. First, let me just quickly thank our sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, residential, residential property, commercial property, a business, Ray Booten is your man. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at 𝐿_point. 𝐿_point is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members at 𝐿_point. Your whole health is their whole point. It's a company deeply involved in our community here, but all Massachusetts community. Just over the weekend, they announced a new Hometown Heroes initiative with 98.5, the sports hub, where they're going to be honoring folks in our communities for the work they do in the public sector. And I have a little info that a Lowellian is going to be one of those hometown hero. So we'll get you more of that. Thank you to 𝐿_point. Thank you as well to Ray Booten. And we got a bunch of other sponsors that we're going to thank in a few minutes, but we got to get right down to it.
All right, bring it.
So the breaking political news in the city of Lowell, a name long rumored to be running for city council in District 3, the Belvedere District, has made it official this morning. You're working on the story on the Sun. We've got it on InsideLowell.com. Erin Gendron.
Right.
So now we've got 3 candidates officially declared.
Officially.
The incumbent, Cory Belanger, Belinda Duran, and now we have Erin Gendron. And there's a 4th guy roaming around out there, Ronald DeBerto, who says he's a candidate, but so far, other than fighting with people on Facebook about national issues, has yet to make it official that he's going to run by opening a campaign account or,
Well, and both
launch.
Belinda and Erin put their names in during the city council meeting. So they're in it to win it. I mean, I think they're not just floating trial balloons. They're actually running. Yeah,
as you mentioned, back in July of 2024, when the battle over whether to appoint or elect the replacement for John Leahy was going on, candidates were invited to come speak and give their application verbally in front of the council, along with turning one in. 4 people decided to speak.
Right.
Cory Belanger, Belinda Duran, and Erin Gendron were 3 of them. I forget who the 4th one was.
Ben Opara? No, he's in the Acre, right?
Yeah, he's in Pawtuckettville, I believe.
Pawtuckettville? I can't remember.
A fourth candidate.
Oh, Ricky.
Riddy Young, yes, that's right. And Riddy has said to me he's going to wait to see. If he couldn't get the appointment, he's going to wait to see who gets
what happens.
Who gets into the race. If he likes a candidate, he'll support them.
But you're right. There were like 7 names, as I recall, who didn't all come to speak because they said they weren't notified. I don't know. But 4 of them came, and one submitted a letter, I believe, or was read into the record, and then the others weren't aware or didn't show.
So now Gendron is a well-known name in Lowell.
Family name.
Her father-in-law was a longtime school committee member and a longtime city councilor before that. So she comes with name recognition. Again, she spoke to the council that night.
She serves on the Board of Health.
She serves on the Board of Health. She also has worked in, it was Consumer Affairs, I believe, for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So she's a big fish in this race.
Yeah, she knows her way around municipal government. And I think that's important. I think the stakes are too high to make amateur hour. I think you need people who have previous experience serving on municipal bodies. They may not know Robert's rules, but they sort of know the flow. It's not new to them, and they've been in the mix. So I think that's important. Belinda, of course, has been active in every level of Lowell's
Since she
life.
Retired, which I believe was around 2020, she's been very active in the city with a number of
She hits all
organizations.
the arts, the cultures, the political. Well, not too much the political, but she's on the fringes of, sort of the moving the city forward.
And I see some of the people who are with her on her campaign. I know she
Donna Richardson.
Donna Richards and
treasurer.
stuff. These are people that are part of Lowell's political bubble, as Jerry Nutter calls it, but people who are connected. So she's just fly by night.
Not coming from the ground up.
She's in there. As you look at that race right now, let's say it stays as a three-way race minimum. That means we're going to have a preliminary election.
Right, in September.
At a yet-to-be-determined date in September. But that's always...
It's going to get ugly, Teddy.
Top two vote getters advance to the November general. How do you see this race playing out? Is this help the incumbent, Cory Belanger, at least in the preliminary, having two anti-Belanger votes, maybe splitting the vote, thereby ensuring his entry into November?
Well, we thought that in the race for the 18th Middlesex with Roddy Mum, that Dominic split the vote. 50 votes. Tara Hung lost the first time. What was that, 2022?
Yes.
2021, 2022. And then Tara came back and crushed it. It wasn't even close. No, was there a third person in the race? Who was that?
Andrew Collar.
Oh, that's right.
He was in that race, but he got less votes than Dominic Ray received. And Dominic
was a presence in the city, good or bad.
Correct.
People knew his name.
Right, and in the Southeast Asian community, which I believe he pulled more from Tara Hong.
But, I really don't, what's the word, prognosticate?
You don't want to get into prognostication game?
I do not want to get into prognostication because it can go, anything can change, and you can see a lot of things happening in between then. And, Cory is very involved in the Lowell Folk Festival. He owns a beer license or something?
He handles, the beverages.
Right, so I would expect to see him recuse himself from any of those votes, similar to what Paul Rathiem did on the Smith-Baker Center. Like when they get the presentation to do any of that, the Lowell, I'll just say LFF comes and presents before the council and they vote their approval, or they don't really do an ordinance. What do? They just sort of give their seal of approval.
Yeah, you have to go in front of the Liquor License Commission to get a temporary, a 2 or 3 day license to dispense
a separate body,
beverages and so on and so forth.
But I don't know. Maybe he'll feel like it's not worth the hassle. I don't know, because I think there is a lot more eyes. I'm not speaking for Cory. He hasn't said anything to me. But I just wonder if, weighing these things and conflicts of interest and whether it's worth it.
I'm trying to remember. I believe he was a counselor before, and I believe he did. He had put his name on those licenses back at certain times. So it'll be interesting to see that. So this is the active race. We knew this, right? We knew this when John Leahy stepped down, regardless of what regardless of what the city council did and how his replacement was selected. This was going to be an active race. Yeah. And it is. We've got 3 for sure.
Well, it's an active community. It's a big vote getter. It's, it's good campaign funds.
Funny you say that, because I actually did as I was putting my article together yesterday, I was breaking down some of the vote turnout figures. And, so Lowell's turnout was about 7,500, give or take.
Out of, what is it, 77,000 people? Yeah.
But of that 7,500, there were 22% of the votes were cast in District 3. So one out of every 5 votes were cast in one of the 8 districts. Right. If you go, and they've always been politically active. So if you go back to, actually, I apologize. In 2023, it was 24% of the turnout. In 2021, the first year of the hybrid system, it was 22%.
I would say not politically active. I would say civically active. And I think civically active people go out to vote, regardless of the contest. They show up.
They're both.
Would you?
Both politically and civically active. Which, by the way, good for them. If every neighborhood cared as much and got as active as Belvedere, we may not have.
I guess what I'm saying, if you're not politically active, you can still be civically active. Like, I might not be involved in local politics, but I go out to vote. you know, and maybe you're right. Belvedere does both.
They do. And then when you go back to 20...
Like they show up for the high school.
So it's almost like you're reading my notes.
I know. That's put a knife in it, but, you know, let's go there.
So go back to 2017, the politically charged election.
Thank God I wasn't here.
Those are the glory days of life. So we had a different system. It was all at large. Right. But back then, the heart of that Belvedere neighborhood, the district, was Ward 1, Precinct 2, and Ward 1, Precinct 3. They accounted, or I should say, 55% turnout in those two districts.
Wow.
The Upper Highlands, which is pretty active, Pawtucketville, which has become a little bit more active, they were in the 23 to 25 range, I believe, in turnout. Okay. Those two wards and precincts, now granted, part of the battle was that high school was going right in the heart of those two wards and precincts, Colley Stadium. 55% of the registered voters turned out in 2017. This is a district.
Oh, that's where it becomes a political.
Correct. And now now it's District 3, but now you can see why they had such a high turnout compared to other districts in 2021 and 2023. And I'm going to guess right now, that's really the only competitive race that we know about district-wide, right? You know, maybe the at-large race will excite
nobody else has
some
filed.
Folks. Right. But yeah, to our knowledge, nobody else has filed to challenge one of the incumbents in any of the other 7 districts.
Is that typical that people haven't filed yet? Do people wait till the last moment, or do they come out in March?
In the old days, they didn't come out till like May and June when paperwork first became available. But I will tell you, in my experience, it started to get earlier and earlier. People started declaring in January and February. Some people were declaring in October and November of previous years. Our friend Danielle McFadden declared for a school committee. Ritchie Thatch.
Well, she's an overachiever, so you know that's kind of
not enough of an ego feed. Don't feed her ego anymore. But, you know, Ritchie Thatch has declared this Ronald Gilbert character has declared.
He was in November, October.
Right, exactly. Right. But there's nothing. You're looking at downtown. Yeah. Nothing. You look at the...
Well, John McDonough said on his City Life he was going to run, but I haven't seen anything yet.
That would be
So there's a lot of talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk, but it's a commitment.
Yeah.
It's who wants to hit the pavement all summer long and early in the fall if you've got families.
And you don't get a break. Then you go right into council.
Right. And then if you get elected, it's even worse.
Nightmare. I mean, I was just looking at the executive sessions. I think I stopped counting at 8. The 8 executive sessions. I mean, it's not just subcommittees. It's not just regular meeting. It's the executive sessions too, which could go for an hour or more. Those aren't televised, so we don't know how long they go. But.
And it's showing up to the neighborhood meetings, which are probably once a month, right? If you're
and all the city hall events,
go.
The flag
Every
raising.
Flag raising, you got to try to make as many as possible. It is a thankless
you don't have a
job
life. Yeah, it's pretty intense.
In many ways. It's, again, this district active. The rest, it doesn't look like it's going to be any more active than it was in 2023, where I think we had a few more challengers, 5 competitive races.
Well, when I came in,
barely ran, right?
When I came in 2022, Lowell Votes was very active, and they held those town hall or those I don't know what were they called, like debates or something. And there were quite a few candidates. That was that was Zoe Zaniku and Rodney Elliott.
In the
and who was the third one?
District. There was
Carla Miller.
She became the Republican challenger in November.
But you're right. Ever since that election, and that's when you had Roddy Mom going against and Dominic and Tara. And I thought when I landed in the city, I was like, wow, this is popping. And then the next election wasn't popping. It was kind of sedate.
And that was the fear that we had. I was a big proponent of changing the system to the district representation system that we now have, or hybrid, because they still have 3 at-large seats. But my concern was that what you were going to do was going to create kind of these ward bosses in the negative sense of the term, or however you want to look at it. But, you know, when you were running as one of 9 in a large race, Melanie's a great person. You go ahead and vote for her. Just give me one of your 9 votes for city council. Now it's me versus Melanie.
Right.
She sucks. Yeah. She's way out there. She's not from Lowell. I know the city. Like, vote for me instead of her. She butchered, potholes. I can blame everything wrong in the district. Conversely, you, as the incumbent, can take credit for everything that's happened.
It's interesting you mention that, because even at the state level, I thought Tara's approach was a little dicey. because he was blaming Roddy for not showing up and blaming him for not being present, not being in the community, and not, apparently going to the office. I don't know.
And Roddy played right into it by doing all of the above.
Right. And I thought, oh, that's a little sketchy. But somehow people, it might not have had nothing to do with Roddy. It might have had to do just with change in general, which we saw reflected in the national election.
But that's how you have to run a one-on-one race. What's the difference between me and my opponent?
Right.
I would do this. He or she has done that. And there's got to be some level of negativity, and I think folks want to shy away from that a little bit. And I think you're now starting to see it play out. I will be shocked if we have any more competitive races than we had in 2023, and we might have less.
Which is interesting because, and the first tell on that, Lowell Alliance runs those political workshops, like engagement or empowerment workshops, and they didn't fill they may have now, but their original apply by date went a week longer because I don't think they had enough candidates, like people who were
they were reaching out trying to get me to
more.
run stories.
So that
I asked
we'll
a couple of questions that I'm still waiting for the answers on.
Which is disappointing. I mean, I don't know that the city isn't well represented by the current crop, but I think good competition keeps you on your toes.
I love good competition.
Yep.
I think some of these organizations that try to align themselves as, get out the vote efforts and whatnot are actually political activists.
Was that Lowell Votes? Was that sort of the rank on Lowell
Votes? Was walking around telling people to vote for the millionaire tax.
I thought, that's true. I'm
like, hey, I thought you were a nonpartisan organization.
I thought they did a really good job on information. And if they tipped into the other, admittedly, I came into it kind of late, but they're not anywhere on the horizon right now. And then you have Lowell Alliance is really just doing organizing on the personal office level.
I think there are candidates who shy away from these organizations intentionally now.
But you do need to learn that kind of stuff.
They won't participate in their questionnaires, etc.
Oh.
So, but you're right. So what they're trying to do is teach you how do you run a campaign? How do you organize it? How do you
there's a lot of value in that.
fundraise?
On the news side, when I get some of these press releases and I cringe, I think, is that really your best foot? Is that really what you want to say? And
maybe you and I should go into business, like doing political
PR for the political communications.
Right?
Yeah, because you need, and James Carville. Oh, by the way, Teddy, ever since you said Trump derangement syndrome, I see it everywhere. I read it everywhere. I've never heard it before. Now it's like everywhere. Every time I open an article, it's Trump derangement syndrome.
And actually, since you were here and we talked about TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, there's actually now a Lowell mutation of that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's also called TDS, but it's TIPA derangement syndrome.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. I saw your show on that. That was very funny. That was very, very funny.
So there's a lot of
love to go around. A lot of love to go around. Well, in these contests, people never say, I'm nicer than that guy. Or I donate more, or I do more, or I have a good family, or whatever. They all go for the jugular. That's kind of the name of the game.
You kind of have to in a one-on-one race. I remember hosting a debate right here, Kim Scott and Susie Chun in District 5.
That's right. That was a while, yeah.
And Susie is, if you ever listen to Susie speak at an event, especially one that's talking about Cambodian democracy and the politics, fiery is the perfect word. I mean, she is spitting fire.
Oh, no, her voice even wavers.
And then she came in here and she was very almost, I don't want to say submissive, but she was complimenting Kim Scott, and I almost want to say, well, then why should I vote for you if she's already doing all these things that you said? That's why if you're going to mount one of these campaigns, you've got to be serious. You have to differentiate yourself from your opponents.
And you have to have 3 talking points, and that's it. Otherwise, stick to it. Get rid of the migrants.
Get rid of them or keep them.
The Lowell High School sucks. And potholes are bad.
Yes,
and you'll take you'll win all 9 races, or all 11.
You should just move to Lowell. In a year, you could run.
I could. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Let's get you in here. Melanie Gilbert is joining us here on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. It's Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Always a politically active time, but there's a lot of other stuff happening in the city, and Melanie and her cohorts over at the Sun have been writing about it all weekend long. We have as well here at Inside Lowell, and we're going to talk about it. I'm curious to get her personal take, not the reporting that she did in the paper, which was right down the middle on these issues. But first, let me thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, of course, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. Find them online, realestaterayBooten.com. Our friends friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through impactful strategic philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, protecting your assets, your most valuable assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, who bring all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. March 21st is their season opener, happens to be their home opener as well, at the Tsongas Center. So thank you to all of them.
Sal Napoli Jr. is going to be on the starting roster?
So he's on the roster. He actually made already paying promotional dividends for them. He was at the UMass Lowell versus UMass hockey game the other night.
Oh, nice.
Manning the Pirates tables, talking to kiddos. So smart move by the Pirates.
Very
right?
smart move.
He's a pretty good player. I don't know how
he's been in the paper a lot of
that
time.
level, but in high school and in college at Bentley, he was a standout football player.
Yeah.
So hopefully they give him a little time. There's also a local angle on the Pirates cheerleaders.
Oh,
yeah.
What is it?
Well, there's a young lady.
See, I have to come here to get the news.
There's a young lady named Grace Hovey who made
I did hear
the
that, right.
Pirates dance squad, cheerleading squad. So we're going to get her in here. We'll get Mr. Napoli in here as well. But
oh my gosh, that's another thing we can spin off on.
Speaking of Mr. Napoli, another executive session tomorrow night to discuss the situation with him. It tells me there's negotiations going on.
Well, I don't know, and this is my alter ego or whatever you call it is Cam. We'll just call me Cam when I'm speaking personally. Cam thinks that it's a buyout, like a negotiated buyout.
I think Cam is very smart.
I have absolutely no information. And I will tell you what I wrote about in the column was just sort of being a detective, because when I wrote that story, the column about how the bridge was closed, and I said, I was spoofing on Richard III. You can tell I'm a big fan of medieval, which we're living through right now, medieval history. But, he said, my horse, my kingdom for a horse. And I said, a bridge, my link for a bridge. And nobody barked at me. And I thought it was kind of putting a stick in it. And I thought, wait a minute, no one's mad at that? And so I thought, what's up with that? So I went down there.
Maybe they didn't get the reference.
Well, maybe they did. Although I give Chancellor Chin a lot more credibility. I think she knows her, her history. So I went down there and started talking to people and asking, what's up with, how's the space, Wanatchett Mills? And they were like, oh, it's, it's okay, but we're cramped. And right then I thought, bingo, they don't care about the bridge because they have a longer term, and the longer term is someplace else. And then I was looking around thinking, where could that be where you can have offices ready to go?
I've heard rumblings that some of the link people involved already, but others who want to get involved and don't have space are looking at Lowell, and that's a prime location.
And you could put it up in 18 months.
Sure. And that's why like the Napoli thing to me is fascinating, and I think you are spot on. It's right now it's a buyout negotiation, because there's some folks like, just tell him he's gone. Well, you can't kick him out. He paid money for that.
Right.
You can't take his property without reimbursing him for it. You got to figure out the price. All right, he paid for this. He built a garage on one. Was he
going to keep that garage? Or is he going to try that?
Who knows? I don't think he's making money on it right now.
The problem with that garage, it's empty on the weekends and it's empty after 2 o'clock. I mean, court is basically over by 2.
Until you develop the HCID.
Right.
But I think
that now
with Link and the front runner city thing, I believe there's an opportunity for the city to get something that it wants. So if I were the councilors, I wouldn't settle for
a 5-story wood frame.
Right, exactly. I'm with you. If I'm Napoli, I'm trying to get as much money as I can. Look, he paid for that.
And he's focused on Littleton. Exactly. Is my guess. And he's got $1 million.
There's a natural buyout opportunity there. And the fact that they're meeting almost every meeting now in executive session tells me there's new terms being thrown.
Well, and the thing that made me write that is I saw the executive session for tomorrow night. And it added, wind companies, we already knew. I wrote about that. Mm-hmm. And we already knew that Napoli is contentious, so that's not a mystery. But then they said there was another player, unnamed. And that's what made me think of the bridge and the conversations I had with some of the people working over there and thinking, oh.
See?
And in the column, I can spitball. I'm not necessarily making things up, but you can kind of connect the dots. And they might be wrong, but it's like fish food.
But can I
give people bite?
can I take a little bit of credit?
Sure.
Because some people have said to me, you know, since last time Melanie was on, her portion of the column has been very local.
Thank you. Thank you. And
that was my biggest complaint. Let's localize
Teddy,
it again.
I hear you, man. I'm listening. When I sit down Saturday morning, I think, what would Teddy do? I hear the WWD.
Then do the opposite.
Teddy
if you're smart.
derangement syndrome.
Another TV.
I'm telling you, it's all over.
Look, now you're in an election season. You're going to have plenty of material. So one person, as a matter of fact, said to me, the easiest thing they could do is just do the speculation about who's in and who's not.
I know, I'm uncomfortable.
And
but,
you kind of did that, though.
But I did it sort of because I had been on the ground asking. Like I wasn't just taking in one ear, from, my mouth to God's ear kind of thing. It was more, well, this sort of makes sense that, all these are sort of, when I saw the executive schedule in the city council agenda, I thought, this is going down. This is happening. I think there's something at play there. And that was my subhead. That blighted area is in play. And that's a good thing. It's a great parcel.
I agree. We've been waiting for something to happen there for
that
15,
alone.
Someone, DeVal Patrick was in his first term when they first promised us a district there, and then it became an innovation.
Yeah, Lapoli lost everybody when he came in with his little shack, like his crab shack or whatever.
I would have guessed for sure he would have budged. My thought was he doesn't want to build a 13-story thing, so he's coming in with 5. And the sweet spot is 8, 9, 10, right? Somewhere in there. Now you got a negotiation. My understanding is he has not budged. And,
well, I think he's focused on Littleton. That's his master plan. It's going to have a hotel. It's going to have community space, green space, apartments, all kinds of stuff. And good for them.
Yeah, good. Hey, good. And if he can't make it go here in Lowell, give him his money.
Right.
Whatever that fair value is, somebody negotiate it. Everybody
there's no interest
happy,
attached to that.
And let's get the Link folks in or the front runner city people in.
Because that's going to help the downtown.
There. Of course it is.
And that really, I had this conversation, I can't even remember with who. It was not with 𝐿vani, although she's a big fan of all the neighborhoods. But, downtown is that's your premier spot.
Sure
if you can't make downtown work, you got nothing.
No matter how great the rest of the city is, if there's a hole in your downtown.
Yeah.
And I used to say this all the time on radio because people would say, well, the downtown neighborhood gets all this attention.
Well, it should. It's been there forever. It's got the architecture. It's got the street layout.
And think about it. When you're inviting other people to come to your city, well, sure, Cambodia Town will be a nice place at some point if they ever realize that dream. There's other great neighborhoods and business districts. But your Tsonga Center, your Lowell Auditorium, at the time, your baseball stadium, they're in your downtown neighborhood. And tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people come throughout the year into your downtown because of those venues. If they're seeing a blighted downtown,
they're not going to go anywhere else.
Other neighborhoods. Exactly.
I think 𝐿vani actually said at, maybe it was the Historical Commission, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I think she said that Centerville actually does better than downtown. Now, Centerville is bigger. And so collectively, all those little bodegas and shops and whatever they have might do better than downtown. But it doesn't ignore the fact that the furniture is in downtown.
Right.
As soon as you light that fuse, it's gonna go off.
And I'm optimistic that it will. I'm getting more and more pessimistic, and I've been pessimistic from the get-go about that Lowell High School construction project.
Yeah.
You had the piece in the Sunday Sun.
Yeah, it's sad. I had no joy writing that, I have to tell you.
Meeting, but
I've been a big fan of that project. And I wrote, transformation articles. I wrote about the 2 project managers, like, wow, hometown people, this is awesome. We're in good hands. And
it was doomed from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a bad decision because of what they're now discovering. Which some of us, let me pat myself on the back, said, you're going to find this. And we were told, no, don't worry. Now we're finding it. But here's what bothers me.
Well, why didn't they find it? I guess that's my question is, like with the MSBA, they can use this as a teachable moment.
Do you remember Mr. Magoo? He walked around blind. If you don't want to see something, you're not going to see it.
Don't ask, don't tell.
They didn't want to see those issues because then they would have had to tell you, folks, you can keep it downtown, but it's a $400 million project. And by the way, there is no chance in hell it's going to be done within the 5-year construction timeline.
It's a huge, ambitious project, and it is beautiful. I mean, they've done beautiful work. It's really quite striking. On that corner, they're not wrong. And again, going back to 𝐿vani Baez-Rose, who's the director of Department of Planning and Development, she said, that's part of the master plan, that corner should be something that,
vibrant,
speaks to you. Yeah, and lead into other amazing areas. But, it really is kind of sad. And I just feel like I guess we should do a betting pool. What do you think the overcost is going to be?
Well,
this is going to be the question in the election.
Say 400 million.
I've been saying that
way back in the day.
Yeah.
There are some folks who are saying 500. That's, I think,
100 million is a little much.
But look, here's the thing. The die was cast. The decision was made in the election of 2017. And it's being rebuilt there. You now have to do the best possible job for those students, and you better figure out a way to make sure we're not having this debate again in 20 years, having to either renovate or build new again in 20 years, which I'm concerned about because the quality of new construction is not what it was in 1922.
Yeah, and and they did it faster. Although I don't think that foundation was re-poured at any time. I couldn't get clarification on that.
Probably not, right? Once it's been put, once it's
so that's the original foundation. So you would think that would be a risk right there. That a regular engineer would say, "Huh, 100-year roof." Well, or 100-year foundation, or 100-year, I don't know.
Well, as you watch that meeting, you'll notice John Haley asked that. John Haley from Watermark, who does architectural design, including, I think, for the Department of Defense down in Virginia.
Wow.
They do construction, so he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he asked for core bearings.
Didn't anybody do any bearings to do, like, isn't that standard practice?
And that's where I get confused, is where's our project overseer to check off those boxes?
Was politically had his hands tied, and now he's a punching bag.
Yeah.
Now Jim Dowd is a punching bag, but I would bet you if you put Jim Dowd under truth serum, he'll tell you back in 2017 his hands were tied and he couldn't say the stuff that now he's telling you is going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's got to get done.
It's going to be done.
And unfortunately, we also found out the parts B and C on that is it's now on you, Lowell taxpayers. You're holding the financial bag. MSBA's got no more money, and you can't even value engineer anymore.
No.
Everything has been ordered and purchased, and if you do the things that you can value engineer, means you're going to give a subpar school, and the MSBA won't allow it. Lowell taxpayers, congratulations. You are now holding the bag all by yourself. And you're at the mercy of them, by the way, right?
Right. So I don't think there's any state house money that's going to be coming in either. Like Senator Kennedy got $38 million to cover the COVID thing.
COVID costs.
And, barring a pandemic, I don't think we're going to get any more money for that either.
Look, based on what's happening in Washington, D.C., we may have another virus escape from a lab or a bat market
I got to tell you, though, I had my little people going out, checking on the waterfowl, and they say they're all doing fine.
The waterfowl
no
is surviving
coughing in the waterfowl.
Okay, good. Excellent.
Just quacking, no coughing.
So I want to finish our discussion here. By the way, can you believe we've already gone like 30 some odd minutes?
No.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It is fun.
I want to talk about an interesting thing you said when I first came into the office. I
say so many interesting things, Teddy. What was this one?
And how about Jack Kerouac.
Oh.
You're not a fan of the proposed Jack Kerouac Museum.
No, and I feel like I can say that because I never wrote on it. That other girl, Cam, the real Cam Morseberger, wrote on that. And at the time I was confused. I didn't understand that. I'd read Jack Kerouac in high school. Not for school, just for fun, because I was reading,
You were a glutton for punishment.
Well, I sort of like those travel logs, and I didn't get it, and I thought his stuff was kind of dated and didn't stand the test of time. He's no Hemingway. Hemingway, you can pick up Movable Feast or The Sun Also Rises, and you're right in it. But Jack is dated. And so I thought, well, I should reread it. And so I've been rereading On the Road. And it lands as badly now as it did then.
I tried. I couldn't get through it. It's not for me. I gave it up.
I just don't see it happening. I don't see it being a destination. And if the Smith-Baker is a done deal, that's not going to happen. I think they should move that Cambodian center over there. To the church, St. John Baptiste Church. Sure, and then you can have a little Jack Kerouac corner.
Are you optimistic that the Mill Number 5 thing happens there?
No, I can't. The money isn't there.
I don't think they can raise that kind of money.
And there's no parking, Teddy.
Right, and plus they're also being spread out already. Like a lot of those places have found different homes in different downtown empty storefronts. So I just think that whole vibe.
It's really sweet.
Just not going to. It was a great concept. It didn't work out as everybody hoped, and I don't think you can recreate it.
No.
And you know what? Maybe you shouldn't.
No.
It wasn't that success. Everybody loved it, but if everybody loved it, there wouldn't have been a financial hardship.
Right, and I say that really having heartfelt, I feel for those people. I don't want to say, well, you're out on the street, tough luck, it didn't work. But it'd be like holding a bake sale for the rebuild.
Right.
Is that really going to work?
Well, listen, one of them is my neighbor next to me at the theater,
really?
the brand new Pizzelle Bakery.
Oh.
She used to be in
No, that's
number
right.
5.
Right.
So she's now got a home, and hopefully she can make it work.
Well, I said to her,
for
did you
herself.
plan ahead? Did you know this was happening? And she said yes.
They all knew what was coming.
And so, Sutra Yoga,
Yep, they
she saw
moved
it
as
coming.
well, yep.
So she moved as well. And there was somebody else, I can't remember who. But
and hopefully these places will now find their own, identity and be able to make it work. And, we've got MCC has kind of launched the, what we originally called Luna 2.0.
Oh, which I think
now
is brilliant.
The Owl Theater.
Right.
They just, I think, was it just this past weekend, right? They
Right.
showed Wicked.
oh, that's right.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So we had that.
Though that's clever thinking. I just don't see running sort of like a hobby fair in a cavernous church with wooden stalls working.
Yeah. But you don't think the Kerouac thing works either?
No, I really don't. And I don't know where that stands. I should circle back to it. I mean, I think if you want to have a local festival like they do for him every year, go ahead, bring it. But he's not big enough. People from
you say that as a non-Llewellian, and you were worried that you were going to tick people off as soon as you said.
Well, I can tell you, as a
Big Jack.
Michigander, we don't care about Jack Kerouac. And I would bet my bottom dollar that, well, maybe not my bottom dollar, but I'd bet $1 that, you'd have to do, the Chamber of Commerce would have to do some sort of study. And what are the metrics? Are you really going to bring people in from all over to sustain the cost? And I don't see it.
So one of the things.
Well, you know what, Teddy? Here's your go by. Have they ever made a movie out of his books? Okay, you can't think of one.
You're right. They haven't.
If you don't get a movie
There's
out of
been
Hollywood,
references to him, right? And supposedly Bob Dylan came to his gravesite and we saw
I mean, these
pictures
are
and whatnot.
pilgrimages,
But
right?
who's the actor there that's big into it? Oh, Johnny Depp supposedly is big into it.
Okay,
right?
well, that's not
As
really
I
a
was
vote
watching
of
the Johnny
confidence.
Depp
Yeah.
Amber Heard Netflix series. But, the thing I always wondered was, and I always ask these people who were pushing this museum and the whole Kerouac thing, is like, you've got some folks, you've got Dylan. Dylan must have some wealthy friends. He himself must have some wealth. Johnny Depp must have some wealth, right?
Yeah.
If he'd stop paying his attorneys to fight Amber Heard.
Right.
Why can't he fund the museum? And if all these people who supposedly love Kerouac have money, why aren't they?
Well, I don't
it?
think he was a friendly guy. I mean, when I read his books,
Have you been talking to Mayor Rourke?
no.
Many years ago.
I am not channeling Danny Rourke.
If I talk Jack Kerouac on the radio, Danny Rourke, he does not a big fan
Well,
of
when you read
Kerouac.
his books, everybody hates him in his books. All the people that travel with him ditch him or abandon him or cut him loose, and it's like, dude, he's not a friendly guy. And I have a feeling people like to have him as a touchstone, like a little pet, but he's not a draw. I'm sorry. I wish it were different, and that's why I'm rereading On the Road, because I thought, what am I missing?
And you're still not getting
I'm not getting it.
All right.
We need to cut that white elephant loose.
Okay. Now, the fascinating part of that is I can say I don't get Kerouac as somebody who's lived on the perimeter of Lowell or in Lowell and worked here every single day of my adult life. I don't get it. So I'm in agreement with you. But a bunch of people do. You say that you have a little bit of an advantage in your opinion, though, because you don't come with an axe to grind. You're a Michigander.
I hope not.
As you called it, and now you're living in Arlington. Right? Which is a big source of contention. Whenever you write anything political, people say, she's not even from here. How does she know?
But we have a lot of similar issues. Like when we built our high school, that was a big deal. That high school was, I don't know, what do you call that style? Colonial grandeur or something. And it was set like a half mile back from the road. And it had this big green lawn space. Our high school was build the new one in front of it. Keep the old one so the kids aren't disturbed. I mean, they'll hear the jackhammering and all that stuff, but they won't be impacted. They won't share walls.
Yeah, you're not detouring around certain hallways and walkways.
You don't have weird people walking in your building, and all that stuff. So they built the new high school almost on the sidewalk in front of the old high school, and now they're tearing down the old high school. And, there was a lot, you're cutting down all these trees. Where's the green space? Blah, blah, blah. But, and we have our little hometown heroes that we think are larger than life. We were on the, the Paul Revere. Yeah, nobody comes to Arlington to see the route that Paul Revere rode. They go to Boston. We were like the hometown of Uncle Sam. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
So we built this whole thing with CPA money, $50,000 to build a shack. Like a tour shack for Uncle Sam. Yeah, nobody comes to see Uncle Sam.
Why don't we use CPA money to build parks?
Yeah, well, nobody did put any money in for the park. So my point about Jack Kerouac, it's nothing against the guy. I think he was accomplished in his own right, even though he seemed to tick off a lot of people. But I don't think it's big enough. It's not a big enough draw. And I see it happening in my own hometown. So even though I'm not living here, similar things are at play. And I'm as against them at home as I am here. You got to move on. And now the stakes are too high and there's no money. So we have to be very selective.
And you see your status as a Michigander, as you called yourself,
Motown.
or an Arlingtonian, as, well, it's kind of an advantage because you come to Lowell's political battles, whether it's
I don't know anybody.
City Council.
Nobody talks to me. I'm Jack Kerouac.
Development, Link, whatever,
Right.
HCID. You come to it with an outside, fresh perspective. So you're learning as you go and formulating your opinions. And it made me think you've actually got a point. You don't come with any preconceived biases other than, what you have on national stuff things or your hometowns.
Well, it's like religion. You don't know anything other than what you're born into. So in order to convert to something else, it's really hard because you have all those biases already built in. And this is the whole missionary thing. You go to these other places and you open their eyes to, to the God you want to show them. But it's really hard. And so I don't come in with anything. I have no idea about any of this. I do remember coming as a chaperone with my daughter. Now I'm really going in there. Coming with my daughter as a chaperone to the mills
For a school tour?
Yeah, and thinking, wait, this is it?
Do the kids from other towns really enjoy the national park tour?
No, and it's a little bit too. I mean, it's obligatory, and that alone sustains the program because it's part of the part of the learning module. But I don't know if those kids think, oh yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to go back. Like we have to do better. Some of these things are too static.
So you view that as an advantage.
Yeah.
Folks who don't agree with you on the bent on your articles that you write or your opinion pieces on the Sunday column will say, well, she just doesn't know better. She doesn't know this.
And that's a useful canard. You can do that. Right. You can say, well, you don't know Jack, so to speak. And that's another opinion, but it's not happening. So they did this museum. It was back when Cam Morsberger was here, and that was going on 2 years now. There's no museum.
Still no movement. Correct.
Right. So let's move on.
Conversely, what your personal situation, not being originally from Lowell and now covering it, is playing out at the macro level with the paper. It's no longer local ownership. It was local ownership for a century or so, right? The Costellos, and then ultimately, even when Media News Group came in and
first
purchased
came in,
it, it was they kind of kept Kendall Wallace. And Jim Campanini was living in there, so there was always a Lowell
continuity
connection to it.
Right. Now
that seems to have disappeared. Your editor is not.
He's from Dallas.
Doesn't have roots here, right? Yeah. He's a sports guy, isn't he?
Yes.
Bruce Castle.
Yeah.
He was at the Herald.
Right.
So, and you, I know Alana is longtime roots.
She's more of a bridge between the two worlds. Yeah.
And Prue kind of does the Drake at Beat, Tingsboro. She's got some Lowell roots, but there's a lot of that outside thing.
Aaron lives in Lowell.
Right on
Dutton
the crime guy.
Guy.
Love Aaron's crime blog. It makes me laugh so many times. Naked man being reported running down the street with a machete. And now I want to know how that turns out. But again, you say, well, that can be an advantage because when it comes to these issues like the high school debate in 2017 or the Lapoli-Hamilton Canal debate today or the political arena and who's running, who's not, who's the manager, who's not, et cetera, you say having that outside perspective is an advantage.
It's both. People can look at me as a carpetbagger. It's easy for me to throw stones and live in a glass house, right? I get that. But on the other hand...
Journalists have always come from out of town. Very rarely do you have homegrown journalists.
But I don't have a dog in the fight, and so that kind of makes me more... I try to keep my writing pretty... I love covering meetings.
You'll argue you're impartial because of that.
Yeah, because I'm quoting them in the meeting, and there's a lot of good stuff in those meetings. People say all kinds of stuff that I think, oh, what? And so but generally speaking, I didn't have a problem with the high school downtown. But now, it's really kind of sad the direction it's going. It's going to be expensive. So back to the bet. What do you think? You think it's going to come in $25 million over budget?
So what are they at now? They're acknowledging, or they acknowledge.
Well, they're at the end of their contingency, so they have no more.
I'm 395 to 400. I think that 400 figure that Marty Laurie and I were throwing around on the radio all those years ago will be accurate.
Oh wow!
My biggest concern is when will it open? Because now and again, so it was supposed to start in 2021, complete in 2026.
Right.
2021, ironically, was the date the new high school would have been completed.
Is that right?
But we can throw in a delay in there, but because COVID, whatever.
Well, and busing all those kids would have been messy.
But you would have, it would have been open for 2.5 years now. But now they're talking about August 2026 has suddenly become Christmas. 2026.
Right.
And then there was also one other piece which you put in there in your story about it. And you said, Jim Dowd said, well, we haven't gotten into the 1896 building yet. And he did kind of tell you the same things we found in 1922, we're probably going to find in 1896. So does that push the timeline out again?
And
does that raise the cost?
Right.
Yet again. We're not done with this thing yet.
No.
So when does this open for the 2027, 2028 academic year?
I got to stick around, man. So.
You're not going anywhere.
I can't go anywhere because I got to finish the story. Yeah, I don't know. They have $2 million left in the contingency, which I think is going to go to the 1922 building. So now you're looking at all those same expenses replicated in the 1892 building. So, I'm not here to rain on people's parade. But I think a good reality check when things are so tight and uncertain, and then you have things like this happening at the high school, you just gotta sort of say, okay, what do we have? What can we do? What do we want? What do we need? What can we do?
Well, what you have to do, the first priority is get it done right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say whatever it costs.
Oh, specifically about the high school?
Residents and business owners of Lowell are going to pay that cost now. You can't share it with Arlington or Boston or whatever. Now it's yours. But you've got to do it right. You've got to make sure that, whatever those 2 to 4 inches of subflooring and, slab and
1 inch in some cases,
hollowed out through the years. That's now got to be done properly. Don't cut corners on that to save $10 million today because it's going to cost you $50 million.
I do think the city
years.
has a leg to stand on. Is that just because the floor wasn't sagging, you made a huge structural assumption that was unprofessional. That's my opinion.
Yes, and if I were...
So you jumped on it a couple times and nothing cracked?
If I were uninitiated, I would maybe even go to court and say, this is yours.
Yeah.
You should have done this. I might even tell the state and the MSBA, you were supposed to protect me from this.
Right.
And you didn't. But then when you go to court, strange things happen. Discovery happens, documents, emails get turned over. And we might just find out the real politicking behind the scene in 2017, that the due diligence was ignored because the political outcome would not have matched the election.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I personally encourage Tom Golden and Corey over there in the law department, the solicitor's office, sue them, go after them. Put Jim Dowd on the stand. Put everybody on the stand.
Yeah, slow the roll.
Bring back Marianne Williamson. Bring back Marianne Williamson, and let's find out who silenced her in 2017.
It's a lot of bake sales. That's all I got to say.
But get it done right.
But get it done. Yeah, I agree.
We're not going to refight that old battle. I can promise you that because nobody wants to uncover some of those skeletons. Let's get it done right. Let's get it done for the kids. We're going to take the hit. Let's pray that Link, Frontrunner City, and anything else brings in enough money to help offset. And
you never know, right? A lot can happen in the next 2 years, and interest rates might come down, and they can refinance all their debt, and it's not as big a deal.
Personally, I'd be going to some of these larger corporations that are coming in, and just like UMass Lowell's new buildings have a name, right? They all have a name, right?
Right.
There's the Manning School of Business and the Volcano Center, whatever.
Right.
You've got to find your benefactors or your corporate partners and dedicate a wing to them.
Yep, I agree.
Forget this naming after famous Lowellians.
Did they do that with Bach Jr.?
At
UMass Lowell, I know.
At UMass Lowell, and also when he put in some money to
we're giving it away when we name things after people.
Let's start.
Make them pay.
Let's think outside the box. Help the Lowell taxpayers out. But I think the Draper Lab Science Center at the new Lowell High School, right?
Good one.
The science
They need to form a committee and
let's
start
go the Draper
monetizing.
Labs thing. Instead of we don't need the Samara Center, we don't need the Golden Center, we don't need.
Better
the
not touch that Rita Mercier Senior Center.
Leave that.
Leave that alone.
That building's not making money for anybody.
She paid her dues.
But this freaking high school better start thinking.
That's a good point.
All due respect to the Riddicks and the Collies of the world.
I agree.
It's time to put a corporate sponsor.
So who's going to name the slab in the basement? This slab brought to you.
This thing has turned into
who's the big cement person? Yeah, who's the big cement person in the city? I can't. They're right off of 93.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Denverno? No.
What's the big company? Oh God, I'm drawing a.
I am too.
It'll come to me right after.
Right.
Record button.
Have them sponsor that, and then you can get tours of the basement. The new concrete. Everybody can put their hand in it or something.
But hopefully we can get it done right this time, please.
Yeah, I mean, we're making light, but it is a serious issue. And, there by the grace of God, we all go. And I think everybody hopefully did their level best to, they all had their reasons. And but now they're going to pay the price, unfortunately.
And when we do start listening to people who advocate for different things, remember who steered you down the wrong path and who tried to steer you down the right path.
If I had been
maybe
here,
listen to them a little bit more.
If I had been here, Teddy, I would have been on it.
Well, you know what's interesting is the only
because I don't have a dog in the fight.
The only member of the delegation at the time that didn't dismissively rule out moving the high school out of downtown.
Who?
Tom Golden.
Oh, really?
He didn't come out with support of either side.
Yeah.
But he came out and he said, well, why can't you do it there? And when people would put up opposite, well, so let's do this and that. One of the things he said, ironically enough, was so build a 5-story building instead of 4-story building. And immediately was told, you can't, that's a fire hazard, blah, 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 blah. If there was ever a fire, what'd they do downtown? Yeah. They built a 5-story building. Right. So, I'd rather listen to the people that maybe think, what my favorite saying is, some men see things as they are and ask why, others see things that never were and ask why not. I like people who think with fresh ideas as opposed to old ideas. That's a Jack Kerouac museum, I'll tell you. I think it was actually not a Jack Kennedy, it was a Robert Kennedy. See, that's right. Right. But he took it from some writer or poet. Right. It wasn't his. Some Roman general, I don't know. He made it famous in the 60s. All right. So Melanie is out on the Kerouac Museum. What if somebody comes up and puts the money in? Well, what if there's a benefactor out there? What if Johnny Depp decides he's tired of $25 million and he's tired of fighting Amber Heard and he wants to honor his favorite beatnik writer? I still don't think it can. You don't think it'll work financially? No, because you need schools to underwrite that, like they do at the mills. That doesn't carry itself with the tourist trade. So you need schools, and the schools aren't going to go there. You don't think they'll be flying into Logan or Manch Vegas Airport to come down into
now the Cambodian Museum? Yes, I do. I do see that being a draw. I don't see it at the Smith Baker. But shouldn't the Cambodian Museum be in Cambodia town? Where would they put it though? There might be a site there where we can make a Cambodian museum. Yeah, I think the Smith Baker. I saw a motion that they're going to let them take a tour to see how bad it is. Yeah, I wonder which insurance company is going to sign off on that. Day one insurance. Well, that's got an X on it. Your firefighters won't go in there to fight a fire. Well, there's your clue right there. You got to stop. You got to pull the plug, and no more life support. I'm all in favor of keeping the facade. I think that's beautiful. But I think the rest should go. I don't know what they can turn it into. If they want to turn it into housing, sure. And then they can put the people can park at the HCID garage. Spoken like a Michigander. There you go. All right. We're going to cut it there. Oh. All right. Well, next time. Something else. We're at 52 minutes. All right. Well, no, we should let the people get to their coffee. And all right. You're going to come back in a few weeks. All right. That sounds good. Yeah. Melanie Gilbert, thank you as always. Thank you, Teddy. Look forward to reading your stuff every day, and especially on Sundays. New and improved. We're making the column great again. We are. At least together. The first part of it. Together. Thank you so much. All right, thanks for having me. Thank all of you for tuning in as well. Later on this week, we've got a bunch of other stuff coming up. I'm going to have a Trigger 'em Tuesday edition of the Daily Pulse. City Manager Tom Golden will join us on Wednesday. Who knows? Maybe that executive session Tuesday night. I want to be in it. Gives us some public stuff on what's going on in executive session. We'll talk to the manager. Got a bunch of other things this week as well. Hope you tune in every day at noon. The Daily Pulse will drop for you. Till next time we catch you, everybody stay safe and stay warm. It's cold out there today. It is.